And Christian, this running back room is really exciting.
Yeah, there's a lot of exciting positions, but I think the running back position is probably one of the more interesting ones and really not talked too much about, which, I know we are kind of in a wide receiver type of era today, but um I would say I my first question is this. It starts with Davon Booth, right? Like no doubt he's going to be the starting guy. And
Yeah, I
if
will
he's
say
healthy.
kind of running back by committee, but
Okay.
Booth, like, there's too many mouths to feed that are talented that they're going to not put him on the field. And they rotated bodies a year ago. Levy, most of his career, has rotated bodies at running back. Ole Miss, it was
Right.
running back by committee. Second year at Oklahoma, running back by committee. So I think it's going to be that way. But in terms of who's number one in the room, who's going to get the most of the touches, it's Davon Booth.
For sure. And they have a couple guys behind him. Um, reason to be optimistic are two key players, but one of them being a transfer actually from South Alabama. Fluff Bothwell is a South Alabama transfer. He had 11 or 111 carries for 832 yards and 13 touchdowns last year and averaged about 7.5 a carry. That's quite a bit of yardage there when you're getting the ball a lot. And obviously, 111 carries for South Alabama's running back. I mean, they obviously saw potential in him to feed him that much last year. And it'll be interesting to see how they work him in there, kind of rotate some guys behind Davon Booth. They also got Johnny Daniels, who's a senior now. He did have 4 rushing touchdowns in 2024 with 540 on the ground and 108 carries. So I think there's a lot of potential there behind Booth. And I don't think it's a position you really need to worry about. We talk about the offensive line. Um, not to jump too far ahead, but I feel like the offensive line depth is a reason to be concerned with the offense this year. If it holds up, I say, you know, you do what you can for Shapen to open up the pass game, but also don't be afraid to let these guys run loose.
Yeah, this running back room, I think, can be really, really good.
Yeah.
I think Davon Booth is one of the most underrated players in the SEC entering the season. Uh, you know, there was a top 10 running back list the other day that didn't have him on it for the SEC, and listening to like the explanation, like there were other running backs that got mentioned for it, and he didn't even come up as a possibility. And I thought that's crazy when you look at like what he did this past year. Didn't get any
Yeah.
preseason All SEC love, and I understand it. Like if you want to say the 6 running backs who were selected to the preseason All SEC teams, you have them ahead of Booth. Fine, I think you could justify any one of those guys. But from an all-purpose player's perspective, keep in mind, Davon Booth was all SEC as an all-purpose player a year ago. He had over 1,000 all-purpose yards. I think it was 10 all-purpose touchdowns, and he was earned all SEC honors. And then preseason, he doesn't get it, and you have a transfer in Zachariah Branch who's still living off of 2 games that he did 2 seasons ago as a true freshman and hasn't really done anything since at USC. Now he's at Georgia. Xavier Thomas at LSU. I know I'm going to sound like a hater because he left Mississippi State for LSU. That guy averaged 2.5 offensive touches for LSU a game last year and scored 1 offensive touchdown. I think he had 1 kick return touchdown in their bowl game. That is not an all SEC, all conference player or all purpose player. That's not an all conference player at any spot. Like Davon Booth is more impactful. And, the other guys at Florida, I think those are actually better players, but I don't know about them as all purpose guys. Like, I don't know how Davon Booth, who with what he did as a running back and as a pass catcher out of the back a season ago, adding some ability in the kick return game. He didn't have any touchdowns, but he had some nice long returns. That guy's too dynamic a player for him to be passed up by some of the guys who were listed. Like, I think
Right.
he is going to have a really huge year. And yes, it's running back by committee, but I think we're going, I do think, because it's funny we're talking about all the passing game stuff. I do think they're going to be able to run the ball more this year than they did a season ago. I think even if they are, I think they're going to throw the ball more too. I think they're going to run more plays. Last season, they did not have many plays per game relative to what you typically see from a Levy team because they had so many offensive drives where they were 3 and out or, run a couple plays punt, run a couple plays turnover. when they did score, it was off of explosive play. So they weren't putting together longer drives. And this is a quick strike offense, but they didn't keep the ball consistently. Even the game, and the other part to that is they had to throw the ball to play catch up. Half their games last season, like they got down big. Even some of the games where they were competitive with, like you look at the final score, Georgia 41 to 31. It's like, wow, State played really well in Athens, and they did. They were down I think it was 34 to 10 in that game. Mm-hmm. Like against Florida, they got down by I think 3 scores at one point. They got down big against Toledo. They were down 30 to 3 at Arizona State. When you're down like that, you're going to throw the ball to get back into it. So the rushing attempts were not there. And I say all this to say, even adding another mouth to feed, they're going to have more rushing attempts this year because I think they're going to be more consistent moving the football. So I think Davon Booth is going to have more opportunities, even with another player there in the backfield in Fluff Bothwell. I also think Bothwell, for as good as he is, mostly going to be kind of the short yardage guy for State. I think he's, 5'10", 230. He is a bruiser. He is a downhill between the tackles. We need him in short yardage. We need him on goal to go, which that was an issue for State last year. That was part of their issues with the run game last season, is they couldn't convert in those spots. But Bothwell, I think is mainly going to play that role. I think Booth is the guy when they're just trying to move the ball between the 50s, between the 20s. It's going to Davon Booth. Now, Johnny Daniels as well is going to get touches, and I liked what you saw from him a year ago. Xavier Gayden is very interesting as a sophomore. Last year, only 8 carries, but 115 yards and a touchdown. Every time he touched the ball, it was a big play last season. That's a guy who's a really exciting player for State for the future. Those are 4 running backs who, if you told me that's the lead back in any given week for State, I'm perfectly fine with that. I think all of those guys can thrive and have big years. I think you've got a really, really talented room who are going to be featured. I think, at least with Booth, and also I think with Booth and Gayden, I can see Levy finding some interesting ways to get them the football because of the explosive ability that they have to offer. Again, I think Bothwell gives you that short yardage ability. I think Daniel's just a good, consistent back from dime time. Easy 1,000-plus rushing receiving yards for Booth. I'm right there with you. I think last year he wasn't there. He had to have the kick return yards mixed in to get over 1,000. I think it'll be from offense this year. Also thinking 500-plus each rush for Daniels and Fluff. I could see it. Let's throw it in Gayden return touchdown somewhere in there. I'm interested to see how they get Gayden involved. That's definitely could be a kick return guy that you get more of going this season. But that is a really, really talented group that they're going to be able to build around. I think Levy's going to be able to do some interesting things with them. Last year, Mississippi State, from a rushing success rate standpoint, it was around 40%, which was the worst that Levy has had as a play caller. You want to get let me look at his previous seasons and where they had been before. So 2024 Mississippi State had a 40.1% success rate. They were kind of in success rate for those who don't know. It's basically the percentage of your play. Yeah, it's how many plays are deemed successful. I mean, but it's judged on how much yardage you get relative to the down and distance. How much percentage of the yards to gain did you get relative to down and distance? So, the quick math, it's 50% of the yards to gain on first down, 75% of the yards to gain on second down, 100% of the yards to gain on third or fourth down, and then any touchdown run. Those are all deemed successful plays. So MSU's success rate was 40% last year. 2023 at Oklahoma, 48%. 2022 at Oklahoma, 50%. 2021 at Ole Miss, 47%. 2020 at Ole Miss, 45%. And then 45.5% at UCF in 2019. So at least 5 percentage points lower for every single one of those from a success rate standpoint. They hit some big plays in the run game, but they couldn't consistently move the chains. And a lot of that goes back to the offensive line, as we're going to get to here in just a second. The offensive line was not good enough for State up front. But I do think they will have improved blocking. I do think the fact that they were able to find some success running the football a year ago behind an offensive line that wasn't great speaks to the talent they had at running back. They've only improved that talent. Fluff Bothwell is another very good piece in that room. Mm-hmm. I think they're going to be better up front. I think they're going to be They got more talent at running back. I think this run game could be really dynamic for Mississippi State, and it could be a really exciting part of the offense.
Yeah, it's going to be fun to watch the run game, man. And it's funny because we're in an offensive era where you see a lot of the run game still with everybody out there. Like Alabama still runs it, Georgia still runs it. They can put backs in the NFL and stuff. You see more of it being about wide receiver and quarterback play. And that's huge for Mississippi State this year too. I like I said, and I think you kind of said that too. Don't be afraid to just feed the backs. Don't be afraid to do that. Give them a chance. And as long as that O line holds up, I don't see why you can't have 1,000-yard rusher out of really almost anybody out there, man. Because I mean, they really are fast and talented on that football field.
Yeah, I don't know if there will be 1,000-yard rusher just because they're splitting up the carries. Again, 1,000
Right.
all-purpose yards for Booth. Like I think between rushing and receiving, Booth will have over 1,000 yards of offense. But do you have a guy who rushes for 1,000 on his own? Probably not. But I do think it's going to be a group. I think this team can get up as a team. They ran for like 137 yards a game last season, which I mean, I literally have it in front of me. Yeah, 138 yards a game last season. I think they could get up close to 200 yards a game this year with what they're doing in the run game. And if you're doing that, and look, the run game is starting to come back a little bit in college football. Defenses have started to catch on a little bit to just the wide open spread passing. You're starting to see teams get back to more physical football a little bit more. Now, this is still a spread attack for sure with what they want to do. But I do definitely think Levy wants to get more physical in the run game. I think adding Bothwell from a physicality standpoint shows that. I think what they did for the offensive line upgrades shows that. I think what they did from the tight end upgrades shows that with some of the guys they added in the room who could help you block a little bit better. But definitely also going to come down to what you're able to do up front. But if this group gets a little bit better blocking, I think you're looking at a really dynamic rushing attack.